Holy shit, the sheer amount of controversy that Tim Houston's government just stirred up with their new plans to increase their power. I want to go into a few of these controversial plans, but before we do, it's good to know that Tim Houston's government has a supermajority right now, meaning that if things require a 2/3 vote, he's basically got that and will meet very little resistance. So knowing that, let's get into it. The first thing I want to discuss is the most craziest thing in my opinion. The Nova Scotia government wants to give itself the power to fire the Auditor General without cause. I can't think of any reason why they would have it out for the Auditor General. They've been strictly doing their job, calling out the government's bullshit. They got mountains of reports proving they don't care what body of government you are, what political stance you have, they will give you an audit report, and unfortunately, our government, both municipal and provincial, has been failing them. Instead of wanting to pass these audits legitimately, you just want to fire the Auditor General instead. Already off to a grand start. Another target that Tim Houston has in his crosshairs is Communications Nova Scotia. This government agency legitimately is required by the legislation to produce non-partisan materials for the public. Government's communications, labor relations, and priorities and planning are now being pulled under the control of an executive council office that the whole entity of this office supports the premier and his cabinet. Just to really nail this home, a part of this bill is making changes to the Freedom of Information Act. They want to put a vetting process in place because if they deem it too frivolous or just not specific enough, they just won't give it to you. Part of the budget his party released, they plan to remove parking fees at all provincial hospitals. At first, doesn't sound too bad. Parking's a bastard anyways when it's downtown or anywhere, so removing fees for provincial hospitals is a great idea. Except it will cost $19 million. Another thing he wants to drop is the tolls for the two bridges connecting Halifax to Dartmouth. That total lost revenue is going to be $39 million. The funds they get for the toll booths alone make up 69% of their revenue. His plan for this is to try to make it into a crown organization like Canada Post. How effective that would be, well, only time will tell. This next one is really going to have a massive impact on the nature of Nova Scotia, because under the excuse of the US tariffs, Tim Houston wants to lift the blanket bans on uranium exploration and hydraulic fracking for fossil fuels. All this was originally banned because of the massive environmental impacts it would have on Nova Scotia. Hydraulic fracking was banned back in 2014 by the provincial government. This was supported by not only Nova Scotians, but multiple studies including independent reviews and the Council of Canadian Academics, and including the Mi'kmaq community. So even back then, the Conservative government was completely against this. And of course, at the very end of all of this, there's a small silver lining. Well, if you're a politician. Because the MLAs, the Speaker, the Deputy Speaker, Leader of the Opposition, Leader of a recognized party, the Premier and other ministers are all getting a pay raise. Because why not? Now I'm sure more is going to play out as the time goes on, but like always, I'm very curious to know what your thoughts about all this in the comments down below.